Todd Miller with Dario Strings. Welcome back to Guitar 101. This is lesson 4, your open chord primer. So in this lesson, we're going to learn how to read and play your first chords on the guitar. Chords are groups of notes sounded together. It's the most common thing we do as a guitar player is accompany singers and play chord progressions. So I really encourage you to work on your accompaniment skills, your chord playing, because that's going to open up lots of doors for you to make lots of music. So we first need to learn how to read these chord diagrams. And when you see a chord diagram, they're always written so they're standing vertically. So basically you can see that if the diagram included it, you would see the headstock of the guitar up high, and the strings are running vertically and the frets are running horizontally. Okay, so your low E string is going to be on the far left in the diagram, and your high E string is going to be on the far right in the diagram. So any zeros you see in the diagram are going to be strings that are supposed to ring open. For example, these would be all the strings ringing open. An X in the diagram would tell you not to play that string. And then you're going to have dots in the diagram that will tell you where to put your fingers, and there'll be a number next to that dot. So you'll have a 1, 2, 3, or 4 to tell you which finger to place. All right? So the first chord we're going to learn is our G chord. So as you're looking at the diagram, it's really just a little grid, and it's just a little graph that you got to kind of plot your points on. Okay? So with the G chord, your first chord, your first finger, you got to figure out which string it's on and which fret it's on. So if you look carefully, you'll see it's on that second string from the left, which is your A string, and it's on the second fret. So you're going to place your first finger on that second string from the left, the A string, on the second fret. Okay. The next note, the second finger, is going to be on that lowest string, that furthest string to the left, on the third fret. Okay, and then your third finger is also on the third fret, but it goes all the way to the high E string. Okay, so there's your G chord. Now you'll notice the other three strings have zeros back there at the nut, and so that means those strings ring open. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pick and just strum across all 6 strings, and that gives me my G chord. Okay, now a couple tips about playing chords. One of the things that happens is our fingers tend to flatten out and deaden the other strings. If my fingers are too flat, I can deaden strings or have strings, I'll fret strings that I don't want to fret, like my second or third finger might be pressing down strings that I don't want it to press down. So we want to have nice round fingers. The more your thumb comes down and the more the neck comes up, you'll find it's easier to make that chord ring nice and clean. So having nice round fingers, thumb down, try to keep your wrist as natural as possible. It's going to help the chord to ring out nicely. The other thing that students often have trouble with chords is their fingers tend to be a little further back than you want them. As my finger goes further back at the fret, this is a really good guitar, so it's not giving me a good example. A lot of guitars, the further back your finger goes, the more the string doesn't really ring correctly. So the closer your fingers are to the front of the fret, this is the front of the fret, this is the back of the fret, the better things are going to ring. So those are typical problems that you want to kind of be aware of to kind of help you with your chord playing to get nice, good chord sounds. All right, the next chord is our E little m for minor, E minor chord. And that chord, the first finger is in the same location as the G chord. And then your second finger is going to be on the D string second fret. So the E minor is a pretty friendly chord, not too hard. With that one, the other 4 strings ring open. So there's your E minor chord. Okay. The third chord we're going to look at is our C chord. Your first finger is going to be on the first fret of the B string. Your second finger is going to be on the second fret of the D string. And your third finger is going to be on the third fret of the A string. And this one also, all the other strings ring open. So there's our C chord. Now, the C chord tends to be a little bit of a problem sometimes because that third finger tends to flatten out, so try to keep a nice round hand and nice round fingers for that C chord. Our D chord is going to be the last chord we do today, and the D chord has your first finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, your 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the high E string, and your 3rd finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B string. This is the first chord today that has an X in it, so this chord you do not play the low E string. So when you strum it, you want to be careful just to play the top 5 strings. Now, as you get more comfortable on guitar, most of us will end up wrapping our thumb around and let it deaden the low E string. We will mute or deaden the low E string with our thumb. So I'm just touching it so that that string doesn't ring. And now I can strum freely. And I don't have to worry about that low E string ringing and trying to be real precise with my right hand. Typically, guitar players, when you're strumming chords, have a real kind of loose right hand technique so that we can strum the chords, and we don't really want to have to worry about only hitting certain strings and not hitting the low E string. So we use techniques to mute out the strings we don't want to hear, and this is a good first example of that. So that is our D chord. So your mission is to memorize those chords and really get comfortable with those chord shapes so that we can move on to our very first song. So, thanks for watching, and work hard and go practice.